Hey, what's going on YouTube? Thank you guys so much for joining. Before we start into the video, I just want to say a couple things. One, thank you to my viewers who came into the stream and helped me with this, created a massive amount of tips for me to be able to put into this video, and I really thank you guys for doing this. Anyway, what had happened was I did about a 2-hour long stream, jumped into Training Grounds and Neo, and we all pitched together ideas to bring a really extensive guide on just about anything we can think of. This isn't everything, that's why I put almost everything in the title, but this should bring any of you new players to the game. This is going to bring a lot of tips that a lot of us spent a lot of time figuring out. And don't think that you have to watch this all in one setting. I know that could get really difficult. Chop it up into little bits, 5-10 minute segments, and just learn all this stuff. You don't have to memorize it, but this will be really helpful. So again, it's not super organized, but it's going to have a bunch of stuff in here. So anyway, on to the video. Thanks, bye. Hey, what's going on YouTube? Thank you guys so much for joining. And this one I'm going to be doing is talking to the beginners, the ultimate beginners. What you should do as soon as you join into the game is not jump in to the actual, BR, the team deathmatch. It's going to be really rough. I would go over to this option here, train. You'll see the testing ground and Arcadium. And I don't want you guys just to go into here and just look around and not know what to do, because it's going to be really fresh. You're not going to know anything that's going on. You're going to join into the game. Actually, what's going to end up happening is if this is your first time joining, you're already going to be in training, so you don't have to worry about that. So if you've already played, maybe let's say that you played a game or two, you thought it was a little difficult, change your way of actually, figuring out your strategy. How do you get better at this game? Well, I'm going to show you. You can go to play, or you can go to the back part, like I was showing. There's a training area. Either way, go to train. You can go to either testing ground or Arcadium. Either one's up to you. I'd personally recommend going to training ground. What it's going to do is actually show you the actual weapons and the hacks, and they're all going to be in a nice, neat platform for you.
This is the hack spawner area.
The hack spawner?
Hacks grant offensive, defensive, or movement capabilities. You can have 2 hacks in your inventory and can switch between them easily.
Thank you, Grace. That was very helpful. What happens if I go to the weapons?
If you're running low on ammo, look for
Ammo?
an ammo pack. Ammo packs are universal and will increase the ammo for all weapons in your inventory.
Interesting. Another point to point out is every time you eliminate an enemy, or if you destroy a supply crate, ammo will drop for you. Universal ammo, helpful. Ooh, more weapons. Maybe they'll talk about something like fusing. Ooh, what's this? I've never seen this before.
Melee weapons can be used to attack,
Oh,
break
melee.
barricades, crack open loot crates, and destroy deployed enemy hacks. And you can find the perfect melee weapon to express your style in the store or in the battle pass.
Interesting. So anyway, I can break barricades or windows. What you see here is this could either be a window or a door. Anything with this is a building that you can go into. If you don't see this, you can't go into the building. So if you break it, it'll make that noise and open up. Same thing with these supply crates. You can hit it with a melee, or you can shoot it and things will pop out. See, there's the ammo, weapon, and hack. Now let's get to the fusing. Let's say I want to get some weapons. What happens?
Weapons and hacks can both be upgraded in a process Prisma Dimensions calls fusion, trademark and patent pending. If you find a copy of a weapon or hack you already have in your inventory, you can fuse it, creating an upgraded version.
Let's fuse it. What happens?
As you boost, the more you fuse a weapon, the better it becomes. Currently, Prisma Dimensions has designed each weapon with 5 upgrade levels. A fully fusioned weapon is a powerful tool to help you command the battlefield.
And not to mention it has a really cool animation.
Give me strength.
So I know what you're thinking right now. Can you fuse abilities?
I can improvise.
Ooh.
When you fuse a hack, it reduces the duration of its cooldown. In other words, you'll be able to activate it again more quickly. Some hacks may benefit in other ways from fusion. Experiment for yourself to find the fun.
So anyway, this is what's really good with the training grounds is you can experiment with all of these abilities and weapons. You're going to learn very intricate parts about each one of these. Don't worry if this is your first time seeing all of them. You don't need to memorize it. Just find what works for you. If you're a beginner, you're going to probably want something with a mobility and then something with that's a little bit more defensive. Right now, I would not recommend running heal. I would either recommend running armor or even invisibility. Invisibility is going to be really good, but you have to get away really quickly. You can use this in both offensive or defensive. It's more of a defensive tool in my opinion. Same thing with armor. However, what I would do is use this more of an offensive ability. So let's say that you're getting into a fight. If you're not right on, go ahead and pop the armor. And then he'll take a few shots, and then you can fight right back. And then you still have your mobility to get away. Stuff like that. That's the kind of things you need to learn. But you'll see that there's a magnet, which is good, but I wouldn't recommend beginners using it. Go ahead and stay away from reveal as well. Mine is okay. It does a lot of damage, but then it also takes up one of your spots. And then same thing with wall and platform. They take up your spots, and you have to get pretty good with this stuff, otherwise it won't be effective. Some other good abilities are Shockwave and Slam. Slam is a really good mobility tool for at the beginning, but keep in mind if you slam, you're way up in the air. I'll go ahead and demonstrate what it looks like.
Be prepared.
So when you're going against good enemies, they actually tend to be able to shoot you out of the air pretty easily. Now what you can do is you can move around, and a really important tip is you can start sliding as soon as you hit the ground with Slam. So if you slam, you can actually slide as soon as you hit the ground, and that's a really good mobility tool in order to get away. You'll see that it does a little bit of damage, but keep in mind, it's not a lot. So unless the enemy is super low, don't worry about using it for damage. Use it more of a mobility tool to get away. Shockwave can be used in a lot of different areas. I wouldn't recommend running it as a beginner, but if you get into a more advanced level, Shockwave is actually really fun to use. It's a good way to finish off enemies, and it's also a fairly good mobility tactic, but you have to be strategic with it. It's not something where you can just hit, like teleport. Teleport, you look in a direction, and then you actually hit the teleport button, and you'll shoot away. Shockwave, you can do it as a vertical, or you can use it as taking down an enemy. Let me try that again, so that way I don't use my incredible aim assist and aim to finish him. Let's say the enemy is low, and you use a Shockwave. You can finish him off. If you're out of ammo, or let's say you can't lock on to finish that last one, or they run into a room, it's an AoE effect. Let's say it's kind of hard to see them. You can actually use it around the corner. Another tool that you can use with Shockwave is if you slide, you hit the ability, and then you hit the jump button. You can move in different directions, and it'll make a nice little movement tool. Let's say you slide, look down, Shockwave, and then jump. It'll move you in different directions. It can launch you forward, backward, side to side, and as a little bit of a trick here, if you don't move at all, look down, use Shockwave, and jump the exact same way, it'll actually send you up to the moon. I don't know how long this is going to be in the game, but for now, if you want to use that as a way of getting away, by all means. Now what you'll see here is a countdown at the bottom. You'll see that it goes from 7 seconds. It would be much longer if it was a
Good plan.
base level Shockwave. You will see that as 12 seconds. And then at the same time, if it's on a countdown and you find another one, you can fuse it and it'll immediately get rid of your cooldown. And that's a neat little trick where, if you have a lot of action going on and you find one, let's say that you use it, he's still alive, use it again, and then you can take down the enemy even faster. Okay, and as for the weapons, what I'm going to do is give a few recommendations on some beginner weapons and talk about how a handful of these weapons work. Now the first things I want to talk about is the difference between hit scan and projectile, or prediction. If you don't know what those two terms are, hit scan is actually when you are aiming at the enemy, you pull the trigger, and it immediately hits them. There's no travel time, as the same thing with a projectile. With a projectile, it means that you launch something and there's travel time. So in most games, it takes length into consideration. There's drop in terms of gravity and a whole bunch of other variables. Hit scan is instant. Projectile takes some time. That's why they also call it prediction. You will see that usually explosives have prediction. However, there's a little bit of a misconception here. The Atrax is actually a hit scan weapon. So you'll shoot it. If you shoot it at an enemy, it'll immediately hit them. It's not a projectile where there's travel time. However, even though it shoots projectile blobs, it'll hit the ground, and then after a second, it'll explode. So as for explosive, this is the only hit scan weapon. These three are the only projectile. Now I know what you're thinking. Is the sniper projectile? It's not. It's actually hit scan, which means this is really deadly for long range. You don't have to account for a lot of travel time. The only thing you have to account for is maybe a little bit of a latency. That's really the only thing. But if you have some really good ping, you have some great connection, you really don't have to worry about a whole lot. It's point and click. Now you'll see all these other weapons. All of these are as well hit scan. I will recommend a few beginner weapons. You can do well with a D-tap. If you're a brand new beginner and you just want to get used to the game, you can use it for a little bit. However, it's not going to benefit you in the long run. Some easier to use weapons are Hexfire, Harpy, and Ripper. The Hexfire, what that is good for is if you don't really have your shot accustomed, there's a very large magazine. So that's the only good thing. However, if you're going toe-to-toe, close range with a Harpy, for example, you're going to get beat 9 times out of the 10. If somebody has good aim, they're going to beat you every time. So the Ripper and the Harpy are actually the two that I would recommend getting used to. You get better aim, and as soon as you get that aim down, you'll actually be able to take out the mass majority of other weapons in this section. Some other easy to use weapons are of course, explosives. But just like the D-tap, I wouldn't get used to these just because it's not going to help you in those fights where you need to actually be able to track or flick. These are more of a yeet and delete kind of weapon. And yeah, they can be fun, but at the same time, they're very frustrating to deal with. And then the Riot 1 is one of my favorites. You can get really good with it. However, it can be a little difficult because it does have 6 shots. So if you want to get good with the Riot, it's one of the most rewarding weapons. I would say that and the Mammoth are very rewarding. Mammoth is a little strong at the moment, but at the same time it's inconsistent, so keep that in mind. And also keep in mind that all of these things can change. The game is still evolving, and just because I recommend some weapons now doesn't mean that they will be perfect in the future. I plan on making a new video usually at least every season at the start. So now we're going to go ahead and go into Arcadium, and with everything that you've learned here, we're going to actually implement it into a free roam. And so what this is going to be really good for is to try out all these different things that I've suggested on dummies, and then also get you introduced to the map that you will then go into the BR mode for. Alright, and as you're running around throughout Arcadium, you're going to see different things like flying robots. You're also going to see stationary dummies, and then you're also going to see dummies that are jumping up and down on these jump pads. Now you might be saying, oh, well, what the heck is a jump pad? First of all, you jump on it, and it flings you up into the air. And there's actually different strategies that you can do with this. In terms of actually specific advanced movements, you can use this somewhat similar to the Shockwave. If you jump on it, don't move, and then jump again, it'll launch you up. Or if you are moving and jump, it'll stop your movement, and you can be really, really creative with it. Let's say you wanted to jump on it, hit that, and then you just wanted to fly up in the air and be able to shoot at something. You can do that pretty easily. What that does is it makes you a little bit less predictable. For instance, what you'll see here is this dummy just jumping on it. You end up being really predictable with how high you jump. So if you're just jumping on it and you don't move, you're going to be a really easy target to hit every single time. But anyway, moving on, you'll hear something very specific. You'll hear this slight high-pitched hum. What this indicates is a supply crate. And usually, the louder it gets, the closer you are. And then you'll see it. You'll see a little luminescent light. You'll see it flashing, and then you'll hear it. So again, this will actually bring a small percent that it'll be a gold item, or it'll just pop out a weapon, hack, and some ammo. And then if you find something that actually is the exact same as yours, you can fuse it. Always fuse your stuff. So you can see here, none of that is the same. Although, let's say I don't want to run invulnerable. I want to just have double mobility. I can swap it out. Now, if you noticed, you hold your interact key, and then what you can do is you can hit your bumpers. Now, depending on which one it is which bumper, and also depending on which preset you choose for your controller, depends on what button you press. So anyway, you can hold that and hit whichever one you want to do. You can also interact with your inventory window, which is down on the D-pad for most settings. And anyway, you can see there for Xbox, Y is Reorder Weapons. This one doesn't matter so much because you're just using Y to switch. I usually never do this. Or you could hit X in terms of choosing which one it is. So let's say, for example, I like fighting and I'm shooting with hip fire a lot. I want to free up my left finger to actually use it as mobility. Let's say I'm fighting, and I want to hit it as fast as possible.
Loading up.
Or let's say I want to do the exact same thing, but I'd rather have it on the left side. So that's what I'll do. I'll hit down on the D-pad, I'll hit X, and then it'll switch it to whichever one I want. And then you'll see in the middle it says drop. What you can do here is move your stick, choose whichever item you want to drop, hit that button, and I actually have a setting down in my settings saying that it'll automatically close after you drop it. So
Making progress.
as soon as I hit drop, it closes the inventory window, and then I can pick up my new hack. So anyway, we'll keep going. We'll keep going until we can find a gold item. One of them's going to be gold, right? And here we go. I found one that was actually gold. You will see here that this riot is illuminated. It is a gold weapon or a legendary weapon, meaning it is completely fused. Now, I personally have a riot one, so I can just go ahead and fuse it. Or let's say you're playing with a team. You don't have a riot for your teammate yet, so you can drop your riot for them,
Weapon here.
ping it with whatever button it is. They can come pick it up, and then you can pick up this riot.
bring the heat.
Otherwise, what you're going to end up doing is you're going to soak it or you're going to fuse it. Since it's already at its max, it's not going to give you anything as a benefit except for ammo. So keep that in mind. If you have a teammate that you're playing with, just go ahead and drop it for them if they want, let's say, a riot, and then you'll actually benefit both of you.
Go.
So as you're playing, you'll learn different tricks on movement. You can either use your abilities to get on top of a roof. You can use a jump pad. And then remember, you can hit A to stop your jump. So let's say you didn't want to go up that high. You can run, jump, and then hit it. And then, you know, if you time it right, you can actually just jump straight there. You won't expose yourself too much. Or, the last thing I wanted to show you, is you can use your other movement. So, if you don't already know, you can double jump. You hit A again, or X, depending on whatever you're playing on. You can use several different ones. You can jump, move forward, and jump, which will give you more length. Or, you can jump, which will give you more height. If you're not moving, you'll get more height. If you move, you'll get, you know, more length. So keep that in mind. This is actually exactly how you get onto the tower in the main lobby. If you don't already know how to do that, you can jump, and you jump even higher and you can get onto it. But anyway, the part that I wanted to talk about here is you can either use your ability, jump pad, or you can use the structure. You can jump on something like this. Then, oh look, event. You can jump here, and then you can jump here. Get creative with your movements. Jump. If you're trying to do the double jump, jump forward, stop moving, jump again, so you'll get more height. And then if you're too close, let's say you don't want to do this in vault, you can jump back and then jump again. I do like to do this a lot just because it's easier to see versus if you go down like this, you go straight forward, it's kind of hard. So I'll jump back a lot and I'll get that extra. But anyway, you'll notice these different ledges that you can jump on. You can jump on here, jump back and forth. This is a really good way of actually avoid fights or avoid exposing yourself. Let's say someone's over here. Jump, shoot, jump over, go over here, jump back. You know, you can do little things like that. But you'll get better at it. You'll be able to slide, jump. You'll learn which way to actually avoid enemy fire if someone's fighting. Let's say they're trying to shoot you over there. Instead of just going over top of something and exposing yourself, go to the right. Get out of their line of fire. You know, slide all the way through. and then shoot them from here. And once they find your position, go up here, shoot them right there. Go over here, shoot them right there. There are so many different ways of taking fights. If you hear people talking about repetitive fights, yes, it's repetitive in terms of just shooting them, but you can handle so much movement in so many different ways. Moving on, you hear that sound. If you hear that, that means an enemy is actually on this platform. They're hitting what is actually taking them up. So you'll see there, I can see him jumping. You can do a couple different things about that. You can teleport up, try to shoot him. You can slam, try to shoot him. Or what you can do, let's say you have invisibility, you can hit that, jump onto here, and it'll take you all the way up. You can get a nice surprise. Oh, what's this? Another supply crate. Go ahead and take that out, and you'll be able to take down enemies. Let's say you had, my setup, the Riot and Harpy. Got myself a Dragonfly. And you can take out enemies from afar, pick up your Harpy, and then continue on with your game. Different things like that is all playing a part into your interaction. And just depending on your play style and what you want to do is just depending on your experience. You'll see subway trains here. It's a good little place to hide. Just be careful that if you go into something like this and they're still fighting you, they're going to know exactly where you are. So you don't want to just sit here. You want to move around. You can go in here, make these kind of movements, jump down, hit a supply crate, keep moving on. Different things like this all plays into the game. Now what you just saw me do right there is I was sliding. Sliding is a really good way of getting away. Instead of just jumping, what you're going to want to do is you're going to slide, slide, slide. A lot of people, what you'll see them do a jump slide. Now what this ends up actually doing is it creates a really, really predictable pattern. If somebody's just jumping and sliding, they're really, really predictable. So doing things like sliding, going a little bit of in a zigzag motion, what that's going to end up doing is making a harder target for you. And then you'll see in this building, cut the corners. Don't run around the stairs. Don't go up them. If you do this, you're going to be super, super slow. A very, very experienced player is going to be able to take you out in an incredibly fast motion. They're gonna jump here, and they're gonna catch up to you. And depending on the skill level of the enemy, they'll be even faster. Something that you may notice is there is a window on the backside. So something you can do is if you're fighting an enemy, it's getting really intense, you're super low on health. Well, how can you get away? Well, instead of just running out in the open or popping in invisibility, you can jump through a window. You can do creative things like running through these stairwells, going outside of a window, and then you can do something like going into here. And keep in mind that you make a lot of noise. So what I've done a lot of times is, if let's say I come around the corner, they don't know exactly where I am, and then I teleport into here, I'll go in a corner and sit for a couple seconds. Now you don't want to just wait here. If they're on your tail, they're going to know exactly where you're sitting, especially if you stop moving. Because if you stop moving, you stop making noise, they're going to know that you're in a corner somewhere. But this is really good for if they don't know where you are and you just want to get away and you don't want them to hear you. Now if you notice that, you sat in a corner and let's say this was the only possible way you went, well, what's the only thing that's open? This right here. So you don't want to just sit in that corner. What you want to do is you want to run through. Maybe you want to go down here. Just keep in mind that, if they knew exactly where you were, you're cornered. You don't have any place to go. So you got to have a backup. So if you're sitting here, let's say you were out of your teleport, you have your slam. As soon as they cut that corner, jump and move your character, slide, and then you can do stuff like this. In that short amount of time, you're going to get a lot of distance. If they didn't have any mobility, let's say they ran magnet and armor, they don't have any mobility. What you just did in a matter of, 3 to 5 seconds is you went from here, slammed, slid through here, teleported all the way through this walkway, and then you're gone. If they don't have any mobility, there is no way they are catching up to you in that amount of time. So that's one of the really, best things about this game is that this high mobility gives you so much of a different option of getting away, and it just creates different aspects of playing the game. So right now, for example, I would use something like invul. So I would use a teleport and invul, and this is really my ideal loadout for the entire game. It doesn't even matter, what time you get into. If you're early or late game, this is really good, because even if you're close range and it's only this section, teleport's going to be able to do things like get you through here. Slam's going to send you up in the air, and that's not really good for really creative ways of getting away. So for tele, you can be able to shoot that, jump through there, or you can just use teleport, get up here, take a couple shots, slide away, different things like that. But if you have an instance where you're super low health, you need to get away, pop an armor. Just keep in mind that you can't take down anything. If you have an armor activated, your way has to actually be clear. Because what ends up happening is, if this is blocked and you have your armor set up, you have to undo your invul, and then you don't have that protection anymore. You use both of your abilities, you have that cooldown, and you don't have any other way to get away. So then you need to utilize something like a jump pad, or you need to go to something like this and be creative with your movement, jumping up and down, stuff like that. Be unpredictable. If somebody's coming through, they're chasing you, don't always just run up the stairs. Run up the stairs, jump out the window, do this. Line of sight people. What you're going to do by going back and forth, you're going to make it super hard to fight. If they're tracking you straight on and you're jumping back and forth, doing stuff like this, being really unpredictable, they're going to be really hard to track you. This is the kind of stuff you got to learn. And the more you play, the more you're going to actually learn. Quick tip for somebody that's using wall, it's kind of finicky when it comes to a building. So if you're trying to wall off somebody, you see what happens? It didn't help you at all. It ends up stopping. I don't really know how to fix this. That's kind of just something that's integrated in the game. So I wouldn't recommend if you're a beginner to go with wall. I see a lot of beginners doing wall. It's really good for blocking someone off like this, but the amount of times where wall has helped me versus hurt me, it just doesn't even compare. Okay, so this is what Chase is talking about. These taxis right here, what's going to happen is if you shoot it, it'll make a noise. But something that you might not know is if you jump on it, it's going to reveal you. You see that you get revealed. So this is the same thing that the reveal event does. And for those of you who might not have experienced it, it reveals you. Duh. Basically, you see somebody, if they get revealed, you'll see them through a wall, or you can see them on your compass, or even on your map. You'll see a triangle, and you can actually be able to track them, and they won't be able to get away unless they had an invisibility. Let me try to find one real quick. That was easy. If I jump on this and get revealed, you can hit invis, and it'll get rid of it immediately. Right there. You see how it goes away where it said I'm revealed? So you'll instantly get rid of that yellow triangle. So Force makes a really good point. This game definitely is a mind game at the same time. Yes, it's a shooter. Yes, you are trying to outplay your enemies, but it's definitely a mind game. If you think that they're going to follow you just down the stairs, if you think that they're just going to follow you, or maybe go straight up the stairs, cut that, jump here, jump up. You can just do so much. And the more you learn the map, the more you'll realize that you'll be able to do certain things. So like now, for instance, I didn't think that there was a sign here. So you could jump here, jump up on top, slide down, hit that, go in the corner, stop moving. So anyway, here in the open world where there isn't a close quarter skybox as the training grounds, what you can do is look down, Shockwave, and then you hit A without moving shortly after you hit it, and you'll be able to do something called Skybox. This is a really good defensive tool where you can jump really high in the air. You just gotta keep in mind that you're really, really vulnerable, and just make sure you have a backup, so to speak. So that pretty much covers a lot of the basics of the game, a lot of the stuff that you might not have known about, and all the things you can do here in the free roam. A lot of this stuff isn't explained, maybe not in the best way. So use this guide as your advantage. Do this stuff before you even jump into a game. And with going into the training grounds and the Arcadium and doing all of these things, you're going to have a really good grasp. All you need to do is just practice, practice, practice. Don't get discouraged. You're going to fight a lot of good players, but the more you play, the better you get. And it's one of the most rewarding games, at least it used to be one of the most rewarding games, where if you got better, it was a really good feeling. So anyway, I hope that actually clears a lot of things up for you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Take care.